Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So first up, I've got a new camera that I'm trying out on this video. I got myself the OBSBot Tiny 2 to replace my Logitech C920, and so far I seem to be pretty impressed by the quality of the video signal. And I'm also, as a trial, using it for the audio for this video, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously this room isn't the best, it's quite echoey, and that's something I'll address in the future. But we'll see how this one goes. And the thing I do like about this camera is the tracking on it. So as you can see here, I'm moving around and the camera seems to be coping quite happily, following me about. So I thought about maybe getting this or moving this one or getting another one for in the observatory when I'm live streaming from there. So we'll see how this one pans out over the coming months. So the weather's been pretty rubbish since I got back to Cyprus. It's been cloudy. Last night we had heavy rain and thunderstorms, and the forecast for the next week is pretty dismal as well. So I'm going to probably take the opportunity to do some modifications on the RASA. So we'll see that coming up hopefully in a video soon. What I did manage to do though was spend 2 clear nights capturing the Lion Nebula. So that's what we can see here on the screen. So this is SH2132 and it's approximately 10,000 light years, I think it is, away. So I did a couple of nights on this using the RASA, and it was with the IDAS NBZ UHS filter and the ASI2600MC one-shot color camera. So total integration was 408 frames, 120 seconds each. Pushed the exposure length just a little bit more, obviously using the IDAS filter. And this is what I managed to get out of it with my limited processing capability. So I was quite pleased how it came out. This is the cropped 4000 by 4000 pixel view. And then this is the full frame, minus obviously the stacking artifact cropping at the edges. So we'll see how it comes out in the future when I do this one again, maybe under more optimal conditions. But at least I managed to get some imaging done. But this isn't what we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight I'm going to take a look at some solar. Let me just close the window, I can't see it from my old microphone. So these were some images that I captured back in August during a live stream. So if you want to see how I caught these captured these images, I'll put a link up in the corner to the live stream there where you can see how I captured them. Using Sharp Cap on the Lunt LS8A solar scope with a combination of 2.5 and 4x Barlows in the optical train, and these were taken with a mono camera, the ASI174mm. So I did get a question from somebody asking how do I process my solar images, so I thought that's what we can take a look at this evening. Now I'm no great image processor. So every time I do this, I get a different result or I find another way of approaching something. But it's just that constant trial and error and watching others and looking at various feeds and things on different tactics and approaches and whether camera settings or telescope train setup and things like that all contribute to a different outcome. And particularly I've noticed with the Lunt solar scope, because it's got the pressure tuner, having the optimal setting or the optimal dialed in pressure on the scope can make a huge difference to the quality of the images. So that's another project that I'm currently working on to give me more control, fine control and repeatable control on the pressure tuner. So we'll maybe see that in the future. So anyway, back to this one. As I say, these are some of the 4 captures that I did. Or I think I caught a bit more than that, but these are the 4 that I've saved and processed. So I thought tonight what we can do is just walk through what I do in my basic image processing for the sun using AutoStacker, Registax and the PixInsight. And a brain fart there, I forgot. And sometimes as well, depending on the image and how it comes out, I tweak it slightly. Sometimes in GIMP, and sometimes in Topaz, and sometimes in the basic Windows photo application. Alright, so let's minimize these applications down and we'll get into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up AutoStackert and Registacks. And the reason I open these together is that there's a setting in AutoStackert that allows you to send the image directly into Registacks, so you don't have to save the image and reopen it in Registacks afterwards. You can't get access to that setting until you've loaded your first image, so I'll show you that just in a second. Alright, so we've got the two applications open, and I'll pull in this window here. This is the 4 SCR files that I captured using SharpCap of the images that I just shown you, and we're going to open these one at a time into AutoStackert, do the necessary stacking in there, then we'll do some wavelets in Registacks, and then we'll do the final colouring and tweaking in PixInsight. So we'll take the first one at the top of the list here, 173428. So that was, I think that's the time when the image is captured. And it's, as I say, it's a SCR file. So we'll just drag that into AutoStackert as the first step. And here we can see the video file that contains all the frames. And we can hit play at the top of the image viewer window, and you can see what was captured in the image. So there's 765 frames in this capture, 30-second capture that I did, and you'll see there's a green box around the center area here, and this is the stabilization anchor. And what we can actually do is change the reference point that it's using to do the stabilization anchoring. So let me just stop that video here. You can scroll through and choose a different frame or wherever, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click my control key and click my left mouse button on the center of this sunspot here until I get it roughly where I want it, and we're going to use that as the stabilization anchor. So back on the main window here, you can see we've got it set for surface, and I've got it set for local alignment points. And now we can just click Analyze. So it'll go off and do its thing. So it's completed the surface image stabilization, and it's now buffering the image analysis. Okay, so that's it complete. And we can see it's got this red box around there for the center point of the image. And we can look on the left hand side, you can see we've got a quality graph. Now this this video has got low quality video. So every grey line, peak and trough, is the score that the software has analysed for each frame. And we can see we've got hardly any above the 50% quality mark, and this area here is probably the best frame. And you can see the green line that runs down through the analysis graph. So that's if you were to line up all the images from their highest quality to their lowest quality, you can see where they're sitting on the overall percentage. So we don't have a lot of frames above 50%, and we certainly don't have a lot of frames above 75%. So in the top right, you'll see the number of frames to stack, or you can use the frame percentage to stack. So for this one here, we're probably going to go around 5%. So in the first box there, you can see I've already got 5%. My understanding of the other boxes is you can do different varying numbers of percentages, and it will generate an image for each, so you don't have to repeat the image stacking, or you can choose the number of frames you want to stack. In the stack options as well, I'm going to select TIFF, and if we click on the stack name options button, this is where you can see where to send the stacked image to. So we can open it in a photo viewer, Photoshop, or open in Registacks. And I've got it set for the Registacks option. So once the image is stacked, it'll shoot it across to Registacks. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is going to replace the alignment points. So for this image, we can use, these are the size in pixels of the size of the alignment point box. For this one, I think we'll get away with 104. The higher number of alignment points, obviously, the longer it'll take to process it. So I'm going to place the AP grid on here, and we can see all the individual alignment points placed. And now that we've done that, we can just hit the stack. Now I'm not going to use any drizzling, which is obviously opening up the size of the image and interpolating the gaps, so we'll just leave it as off. And we'll let it do its thing. Okay, so that's the stack complete. It didn't take too long there. Fortunately, I do have a 24-core CPU running on this. And now we can see down on my file explorer, we've created this folder called AS Stacks. And inside there, we can see the TIFF file that was generated by, let's open that one for some reason. The TIFF file that was generated, and we can see the stacking artifacts at the top of the image, which will crop out in PixInsight. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do in RegiStacks is we're going to do the wavelets, and this is the sharpening. And I'm not even going to begin to understand what it does and how it does it. All I know and all I tend to do is I'll select linear, I'll select Gaussian, and then I will adjust the sliders using linked wavelets or unlinked depending on how it's looking, and I'll just do adjustments on the sliders until I get something that is appealing to my eye. That is all I know. I'm sure there's a lot of science behind all these wavelets, sharpening and things, but I will leave it where it sits. So as I say, I just give it a tweak. Now I do sometimes just horse it up and just see how it looks. But I tend to end up with a sort of like a shallow horseshoe. Now we can see here this square has appeared, which is the sample processing area. And again, similar to a AutoStacker, you can change the area where you want to do the sample. So if I double click on an area, you can see the sample square moves to where it's doing the wavelets. So let's go back to the center of the sunspot, and we can see what I've got here isn't working, and that'll be because I've got the use to link wavelets. So I'll uncheck that, and now we can just continue to try and get something that looks relatively appealing. So you can see some of the detail now is starting to form in the image. Okay, so let's do a bit more tweaking on here. Let's just take this up and see what effect it has. And we can see more of the detail starting to form around the sunspot. Let me just pull up layer 2 and see what effect that has. And again, we don't want to overdo it because it really does start to look a bit ridiculous. And we'll just come back down. And we'll sort of settle around there somewhere. And if I click Do All, it'll process the whole image. Alright, so that's it, processed its whole image. Now what we can do is we can click Save now. Or we can do some adjustment to the contrast. So let's just see what effect that has. You can see we've really brightened that up there. Let's go with that. So if I do all again, you can see it's really pulled more out of the image there. Okay, so let's save that image now. And let me just call this image 1 so it's easier for me to remember. And you'll see that image has now appeared down, and here it is here in Windows Photo. Now we can see we've got a little bit of graining in there. Again, that's down to the wavelet settings, so we can adjust them further. So let's change the area so we can maybe see that graining, and it's probably the lower layers that's causing that. Let's save that image just on top of the previous one, and that'll do for the purposes of this. Alright, so now we are complete in RegiStacks and AutoStacker. We can go across to Photoshop, and let me just grab that image and drag that into PixInsight. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to do a dynamic crop just to pull off the stacking artifacts. around about there. Okay. And the next thing we can do is we can just put a little bit of tweak on the curves just to see if we can pull out some more. And I think that'll do. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to apply some color to this image, and to do that we use the histogram transformation. So go into histogram transformation, and we will select the image 1 so I can see the histogram, and we'll turn on the real-time preview. Okay, so we want to get to a sort of golden orange. So to do that, we're obviously going to need to push up some reds and pull down the blues. So let's start off with doing some reds. And I'll just pull this up to around about here. And then we'll pull down the blues. And we'll start to see the color changing. And we'll get a nice golden. Somewhere around about there will do just now. We can always push the curves a little bit later on, and we can adjust the greens slightly back towards the middle and get a more darker sort of like that 3 humps. Okay, and we'll reset. So now we've got the color in the image, we can start looking at how we can try and give it some more depth, and we can also try and smooth out some of the noise that's potentially in this image. So if I close the real-time preview, we see all this graining. So what I'm going to do is use Noise Exterminator. We'll see how this works. And we'll just leave it on as default. Okay, so that worked fine by the looks of it. Smoothed out the image, and we've got rid of a lot of that noise. Obviously we're zoomed right in now and we're seeing the individual pixels, but that is looking not too bad. So now we've got it in this state. One of the tools that I use is called, is in the scripts, is called Dark Structure Enhance, and that also just helps to put a little bit of color or darkness back into some of the structures, and where you apply it can have a big impact on the image. So we'll try it here just now and see what it does. We can always undo it if it doesn't look right and apply it again later on, or we can adjust the curves to try and pull out that structures. So I'm going to leave it on the default settings and just click OK. And there you can see it's added some more darkness into the structure. So if I undo it and redo it, you can see the difference it's made onto that. So now we're going to start applying some color masks and try and boost the saturation in some of the image. But the first thing I'll do is I'm going to give a little bit of a saturation boost across the whole image. And to do that, we'll go into Curves Transformation. And we'll go into Real-Time View. And we'll click on the saturation and just give it a slight boost and see what happens. So we're getting some maybe a little bit heavy on the highlights. I'll pull this back a bit. Okay. I'll reset that, and we'll try and just put a little bit of luminance across the image. and pull down the shadows just to help make the structures stand out again. And reset that, and maybe do that just a touch again. Okay, let's reset that, and this is where we are at. So now I'm going to apply some masks and try and pull out the different layers of the colors. So to do that, I'm going to use the utilities and the color mask mod. So here we can see we've got a preview of the image on the right hand side, and what we can do is we can draw a square around an area to zoom in on. So for example, if we look in on this sunspot here, and now we can click on it and see where that pixel is on the color mask. So if we default it to red, you can see we've opened up this segment, and we can adjust the segment size by adjusting the start and end hue colors. And we can see where we're sitting. Oh, let's reset the zoom. I accidentally clicked. So we'll take this light area here, and you can see it is this line here. So what we can do is we can adjust the ending just to either side of that point. Now it's not letting me come right down all that way. I have to go the other way. And we just want to get roughly that sort of spread for this, I think. I don't want the mask to be too blurred, so I'm going to knock it down to one level of mask, and we're going to use lightness and hit OK. And if the mask doesn't look right, we can always do it again. So there's the mask here, and what we can do now is apply this mask to the image, and we'll see everything that's in red is protected. So if I go onto the curves now, all processes, curves, transformation, real time. And what we'll do first is I'm just going to pull on luminance, just give it a big sweep so that I can see what areas the mask is going to have the biggest impact on. And you can see it's illuminated on where areas are being affected by that mask. So I can reset the mask, reset that curve, and I can also do an invert on the mask. So up at the top of this black and white circle, I can invert the mask now, repeat that, and we can see what areas are being affected by the mask. So let me take that invert back off. Oh, there we go. And let's give me a slight tweak to the luminance and to the saturation. Okay, and if we do the circle at the top left here, we can turn on and off the preview and see what difference it's having. And we'll just apply that. Okay. Now we're finished with that mask, so we can close it. And closing the mask will also detach it from the main image, as you can see. And we're going to go in and do the process again with another mask in a different color area. So let's reset the zoom and let's have a look at this region down here and go for this dark area. So again, we're quite tight in on the red area, the reddy orange. So I'm going to open up the spread a little bit more this time, increase the strength of the mask, leave it on lightness, and increase the blurring. And here we can see we've got a significantly different looking mask this time. So we can pop that onto the master image and go to curves once again on the real time. Now we're currently on saturation. Let's just pop across onto luminance and we'll see what effect it has. So we're blowing out the whole image there pretty much. If I do that, so what areas am I wanting to do was the dark areas. So I can pull down the shadows. And I don't think I want to mess around with. I'm looking at my other screen because it's got a slightly different color calibration on it, so it gives me another view of how it's turning out. And let's see what happens if I tweak the mids here. Maybe somewhere around there. And saturation touch as well. Reset that, and this is where you could also then look at the individual color channels and potentially tweak them if you weren't happy with how the overall color is. For example, that's going a bit extreme. So if it was too golden, you could move it back towards the orange and yellows. Somewhere maybe around about that. Let's see the effect of blue. Let's just pull that up slightly. Let's do that. Clear that. Okay, and we're probably, let's close that mask, don't need that anymore, and that'll detach it also from the main image. And there we have one sunspot. So I could go and do some sharpening in here. So if I go to process, multi-scale linear transform, put on the real time, and we can start to, that's too much. Let's just turn on the 4 channels first. And we can make some fine tweaks too. That's got a little bit too much. I think that was layer 2 that caused that. So we've got 3, 2, 1, and this one's too high. Let's leave this one as 1 as well. The 0.25. See the effect the bias will have on here. A little bit too strong. Let's pull it down to 0.2. And I think this one should be down at 1. And we'll apply that. Alright, so there is one sunspot. So I can save this out. So let's save as a TIFF, and we'll call that image 1 post PI. Because what we'll do now is we'll take it across into Topaz Sharpen just to see what it can do with it. Okay, so let's open up Topaz, Sharpen, and let's open that image into here. Alright, so let's zoom in so we're not dealing with such a large image to process initially for the sample size, and we'll focus on sort of that bright area and that dark area. And we'll just have a look at the various AI sharpening to see which one gives us the most appealing view, or maybe not at all. So we can see this one's made it quite blurry, or pixelated I should say. And that's maybe down to some of these settings. So this is for motion blur. Let's try an out of focus. I'm still processing. Let's try out of focus very noisy. That doesn't look too bad. Too soft normal. Let's try that. So these are the different models for the AI. This one you can still see there's a bit pixelated there. Let's try very noisy. That's not too bad there. Softened it out a little bit. So let's ramp up the blur a little bit, remove blur, and we'll just keep going. You don't want to get any harsh edges. And remember, we're zoomed in quite a bit here. That's looking not too bad. And we can take down the suppressed noise just to see what impact that has. And slowly nudge it up till it flattens out. And let's try another area. Let's move up here. And that's taking the edges out nicely without being overly sharpened. So let's zoom right out. And let's save that image. So that's a PNG. Let's save it as a TIFF. And it's just calling it Post PI Sharpen AI in the same folder, so that's fine. All right. And now, this is it in Windows Photo Viewer, so it's not looking too bad. And we can also, in here, just do Edit, Adjustments, and we can tweak some of the settings in here and just see how we might want to play around again in a more straightforward environment. I don't think we need to make any changes. No real difference. So yeah, no need to make any changes in this. Alright, so now that's in a TIFF, we can go back to PixInsight and save it as a PNG if you were to want to save it out to socials. So File, Save As, PNG, or JPEG, or whatever your flavor of choice is. And there we have it, one image processed. So there's the PNG file. What zooms that? That's 171%. There we go. There is 100 zoom on a 4K monitor. Alright, so that's basically all I do. And I probably could do some more sharpening, some more layering in it to get some more depth to it, but I quite like how it's coming out with these sort of flamey looking filaments all around the surface. The sunspot's looking not too bad. And yeah, that's as far as I get with my solar. So on that note, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one, which will hopefully be the RASA. If not, I hope you've got clear skies wherever you are and you get some good imaging time. So thanks for watching again. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much and good night.